Welcome to the house where the conversation gets hotter, sweeter, and interesting. And of course, my name is Vivian, and this is
Stanley.
and so welcome to the
The
house.
house. So, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget that this amazing show was sponsored by Wagme Apartments, bringing you luxury and affordability. You can host your birthday parties, your bachelor's night. You can have your staycation and amazing vacation right in this beautiful apartment. So that is it for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to head back to the conversation because we're talking about men.
Exactly.
You know, these kind of conversations, they are hardly held in status quo.
Yeah.
Society don't always talk about men. But then there has been a recent spark, right? Last year, we all know our celebrity gospel music minister, Peter Sinokopi. On his wedding day, his best man cried on his shoulders,
Yeah.
and the internet was set on fire. That was not enough. Was it last month? Priscilla Ojo got married to her hubby, and Enioluwa, a man child, cried because his best friend was getting married. But that was not enough because the internet was already used to Enioluwa, and the fire was there too. But ladies and gentlemen, the last camel that broke the camel's back. Sorry, the last straw that broke the camel's back.
That the camel broke the straw, broke the camel.
If I said that camel breaks the straw back,
something was broken.
Few days ago, our amazing and celebrated David O,
the GOAT,
the Obo of Africa,
30 BG.
30 BG, shed tears. He did not cry.
So much emotion.
So much emotion.
You need to let it go.
Emotion was just overflowing at his manager's wedding. And we were beginning to wonder. We used to say, men bottle up the emotions. Men don't cry. Men don't. What is happening, Emeka Kali? Because we need to what is going on? Everybody is now crying.
We need an explanation.
You know they have tears to come up from my eyes again today.
So is it like they're losing their masculinity or is there they don't open tap?
Exactly.
Yes.
Or are we just getting too liberal?
Yeah, another era.
Like what is, because I know our forefathers, they used to cry. They used to
man up.
I heard that period, and we had about Ibuichi in Igbo land, where they have to in my Igbo class they taught us they have to use a blade to cut so you see them having these tribal marks and all of that, and they don't cry. That's to show that you are a strong man.
Exactly that.
There's a man there's a man in you. Of ordinary wedding. Don't be say your best friend. They leave you commode.
Just help us. What exactly is going on?
Sorry, I'm talking too much, but this thing he pained me.
You need to talk too much,
right?
Okay, I first of all I will say that I am not yet a man.
Okay.
I'm a boy child.
All right.
Okay, however, yes, I'm a young man. And first of all, we must see these things from the right lenses. So we were not with our grandparents.
Okay.
We were not with our ancestors. We were not in the secret place with them. We are privileged to have social media now that exposes the private life of a lot of persons. You cannot tell me that your grandparents did not cry because they were men. You cannot tell me your ancestors did not cry because even Jesus wept.
Okay.
Okay. Give it up.
Even Jesus. That means now let me help you understand the depth of that statement. Jesus wept. Jesus came in form of man 100%, and God 100%.
Yeah.
And you know about the Trinity, they'll tell you God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and how they dwell in each other completely. So that means while Jesus was on earth, God was in him completely, and the Holy Spirit was in him completely.
Okay.
And Jesus wept.
So God wept. Holy Spirit wept. And Jesus wept. Hey, Jesus, who am I?
Three personalities.
Who is me?
You get now. I said this now to make us understand that if you believe in God, obviously that I do. I know we all believe in. You understand that we are created in God's own image to have emotions, to express emotions. So that assertion that we say that men don't cry, it's not something I buy into. Because if God has emotions, if God created us to have emotions, that means we should have emotions. That means men should cry too, and women should cry too. You understand? Because they were also made in the image of God. However, I like to draw the line when it comes to issues like this.
Okay.
That is where my problem
Okay.
with other persons that have worldviews are.
Mm.
Yes, issues that should make women cry shouldn't be holistically the issues that should make men cry. I'll give you an instance.
Okay.
If you are raising two kids and one is a guy and the other is a lady,
Okay.
I'll talk about it from the African perspective first of all.
Okay.
If you give two of them lollipop and someone snatches the lollipop from the girl and she falls on the floor, you know this thing children do and start jerking and crying. The way you react as a father is different from the way you react when it's your son that does the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
For the lady, you'll be very protective. You rush and collect back the lollipop and return it back to the child, the girl that's crying, right? But if it's a boy, it doesn't mean you will not be protective, but the advice after then will be different, especially when it's his fellow child that does that. If it's another small boy that takes away that lollipop from him and he falls on the floor and starts, no, my mother, first of all, that was raised by a man, will call you and tell you, your fellow boy did this thing, and you are crying.
Okay.
And you fell on the floor.
You fell on the floor
Yeah.
and you are crying.
Yeah.
That is where we draw the line. There should be a way we raise children, especially the male children, to understand that there's a balance to this emotion
Everything,
thing.
Yeah.
There's a balance to it. There's a time to cry. There's a time where you let your emotion flow. And there's a time that you become the strong person that you are trained to be.
Yeah.
That is how God created the man and the woman. We have that difference.
Yeah.
Let me go straight to the question you asked about whether we are now getting more loose and now shedding tears here and there.
We
It's
actually
like, I mean-
didn't say getting loose.
I said liberal actually.
Okay, you said liberal.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Now I started by explaining that in social media, due to social media now, we get to see that these patients cry too.
true.
However, there's something I would like to pin out or pinpoint in this reoccurring issue about men crying and all. One of the things that causes emotional build-up is remembrance.
Okay.
For instance, when you go to church and a pastor is preaching a particular message, the way it relates to you is different to the way it relates to the next person.
Yeah, true.
Someone might just see somebody looking at the pastor like this and the person is shedding tears. Some other person will be listening to the pastor and the person will be laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Different people,
Yeah.
different experience, different level of relation
Yeah.
to a particular issue. So when we see people cry, we tend to judge them from our perspective of that particular scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you see someone that has been raped before, let me use this sensitive matter.
Trigger warning,
Okay.
please.
If you see someone that has been assaulted before, probably assaulted sexually, the way he or she responds to someone else's story
Yeah.
on that particular subject
Yeah.
matter is different from someone who doesn't have the
Sometimes you
background.
think that they're even dramatic.
Yes,
They're just
yes.
overreacting.
Yes.
True.
I've seen someone that just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" She reacts.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She reacts in a very fast way, and I'm like, "Come on, what happened?" Then when we got closer as the day went by, she started opening up to me and telling me some stories, some experiences she has had. Now, some other persons who doesn't know the story won't be able to relate, or some other persons who has not been through this particular situation won't be able to relate. They think she's just overdoing or overreacting.
Yeah.
However, she knows her experience. She knows what she went through. And these are the things too that we should put in context when we see men cry.
Right. All right. So yeah, sorry to cut you short there.
Yeah.
So are you trying to say that two things I've picked up from your speech or from the conversation so far? One is that maybe it's because of how prevalent social media has become nowadays. That's why we're able to spot that these guys were crying, publicly. But secondly, maybe they must have remembered stuff, and also, are you trying to say in a nutshell that them crying is justified and like whatever anybody's saying on social media is like
Actually, them crying is justified. I don't really care whether they cry outside or inside.
Yeah.
Just the same thing I explained. Our parents, our ancient
Yeah.
fathers, we did not know they
Yeah.
cried because there was no social media to tell
True.
someone who is in Kano
Yeah.
that someone in Abia is
Mm.
crying.
Crying.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So no matter how relevant they were in their days, we didn't know if they cried or not.
Okay.
But bet me, if a king cried in the ancient time, because of the walls built around, the structures built around the king, you will never know he cried.
True.
Probably his wife will just know, or a few servants that are very close. But today, if a king is crying, probably in a cabinet meeting, they are empty.
Sometimes you don't even know.
You don't know. People are videoing at every point in time. You're a public figure.
You just see it online.
I'm not even
You just pop
joking.
up there.
I don't even know if people plant cameras on
their
their bodies
bodies.
because
body,
you don't
or
know
maybe
how
they plant it somewhere.
everybody has a phone. Like
oh,
everybody has a phone.
just secretly, someone is just there.
Yeah.
Videoing,
and
looking for what to
capturing
say.
moments.
Yeah, true.
Everybody has a phone. So if you look at Peter Sinokopi, you mentioned Minister Peter Sinokopi when he cried. Now, in some part of the story, you could see a throwback of how far he has come with this guy.
Yeah.
I came from nothing. Now we have everything. We are living our dream life. We are living in our dream house. We have everything. And these are things we've spoken about when we had nothing.
True.
And we are seeing the manifestation. That's enough to cry for.
All right, now here's the thing, right? So, what now happens if they have all of these emotions welling up and they don't let it out? Because I even listen to the statistics I gave.
Yeah.
I talked about depression. I talked about anxiety and all of that. Because I think that most of these guys that we see today that bottle up things, most of them suffer from so many emotional needs and they can't let it out. So I want us to talk about like the impact of not being able to be expressive even as a man, how it affects you, your emotional psychology, and then like maybe impact and all.
Even if there's something here, when someone has a lot going on and they don't let it out, you find out that one, there's depression, it just sets in.
Yeah.
And most people out there are actually depressed and they don't even know because they're actually not speaking to anybody. And then the next thing, of course, suicide thoughts comes in. You cannot do anything. Why not just end it and let it just be there? And like the statistics that you just showed up for us, we found out that it is majorly amongst men, majorly among teenage boys, because they've had that mentality that men don't talk.
Yeah.
Okay, you try to figure out, like, unlike my gender, of course, if I have anything bothering me, I have a lot of persons I can speak out
And
to
you will not be
and
judged.
judged.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
But then when a young man speaks and then start, you yourself, you'll be like, are my ears okay?
Exactly.
Am I hearing the
Yeah,
right things?
yeah.
Because one thing I know that people fear most is the fear of being judged. And that is why lots of people just want to bottle up a lot of things inside of them.
Yeah.
And this is the stereotype that men has actually grow up with. The whole, you don't talk, men don't cry, you don't do this one, you don't. There's a lot of cage that they've been caged into, like a box. They've been boxed into that thing. So that's why we just find out that they just bottle up and then the emotions are just there. It's just somebody that is angry. If you remember when we were young, let's say you just broke a plate, and then your mom starts shouting at you.
Yeah.
You remember that was how you did it on the other day. That was how you did it, and then they'll just start remembering a lot of things. That's how it actually happens. Even when you get someone angry, you just see that the person starts speaking from a depth of somewhere, like something has been stored up inside that person. So I feel that's the same thing that actually happens.
So that's
to
why
men
we
these days.
see some men becoming overly violent,
Exactly.
overly abusive.
Yeah,
not
because
necessarily.
for them, strength is power.
Yes.
So masculinity is all about
And sometimes
strength.
there is a grief deep down, and the only way they can express themselves is maybe
Fighting,
they hit you
violence,
and all of that.
exactly.
Sometimes it's not like intentional and all of that. I really think it's a problem. So, Kalwe, I want to ask, right? There are things that you can easily talk about as a man and you will not be judged, but there are things that society has drawn that if you say it's over. So can we talk about those things? When I say arrow, for those of you who are not Igbo guys watching us, I mean abomination. So can we talk about those things that men have been, banned from talking about? Societal constructs, society really tells you that if a man talks about, even as a therapist, if they come,
You'll be like,
you tell. I listen. I don't judge you, but I judge you.
I will go to the back and judge you.
Or I listen. I don't judge because only God can judge this matter.
You know, one of the first things that we notice that men keep to themselves is when it comes to this this love issue. Now, this love issue is very dicey, especially when it's a man-to-man something that men tend to, because of the sensitivity of that topic, men tend to avoid it entirely. But truthfully, it's not something to be avoided. It's something to be embraced, especially when there's no ulterior motive around it. So you can hardly see a man that you say, Stanley, I love you.
Never.
So you see the issue now. You see the issue. Please now.
Is that what you're trying to say? Don't let people.
Now, Stanley wanted to declare his gender afresh. Now he wants to tell you that on behalf of I and a few brothers, please.
And I think this is what happens.
I'm a man.
This is what happens, right? There's a caveat society, like people have already like put in place. Like when they want to say emotional things to fellow man, the people want to say no homo. I love you. Exactly.
So you see that there are reactions to it that a random will just hear it and the person will be like, hey, who is this one?
What is going on?
Now, but it's something that I think we all should start embracing, especially when there are no ulterior motives.
Especially when there are not ulterior. That's the emphasis.
That's my emphasis. When there are no ulterior motives around it.
But when you go tell your fellow man you love him.
No, but that's the truth. Now I'm going to tell you. This is one of the
I can tell a fellow girl I love you.
You see this matter. You just asked Miss V a question a while ago about how this emotional build-up happened. Now, one of the things that keeping to yourself as a man can cause is dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction.
Okay.
I lost a friend last 2 years. CJ, I think you
we know CJ.
Yeah, CJ is our very good friend.
Yeah.
Now, CJ was an amazing friend of mine. Like, yes, he was quite older than me a little, but we had this very good connection, and he was my very good brother. See, I'm becoming teary. If I cry now, they go say, "Man,
please cry." Please, they cry.
No, we've actually established that it's okay to let
do you get? So now something happened when I lost CJ. I had to go through our chat again, and I got to find out that there was no single emotional expression I had towards CJ that I didn't tell him about.
Ooh.
And CJ is that kind of person. CJ will literally come, will laugh, play. They tell you, bro, I love you, bro. CJ was like that.
Yeah. It would have hurt more if after he died, you started expressing.
Do you understand?
Exactly.
And that's what the society does.
True.
Society never tells people how they feel about them until they are no more.
And then you start reminiscing on the moment.